The thing here that's a little disturbing is that if the president if they needed to take such extraordinary steps to protect the president because the threat level was so high, the American people deserve to know that the threat level was that high in this particular case, that he had to take such an extraordinary measure. And then the other piece of it is that, in fact, everyone on that plane was a decoy. If they felt that it was unsafe to be on the plane, then it was unsafe for everybody else to be on the plane as well. So they at least deserve to know, if not then after, why this was happening.
So that's talking about the decoy plane that Trump used, and he filled a plane that might get hit, well, at least that's what they thought at the time, with reporters. And by the way, some of his own staff. So who was on the decoy plane, we'll tell you that. And was the threat real? Well, that depends on where we got the information. Well, we have info on that as well. But one of the things we want to discuss here as we tell you all the facts in this case is just think about how Donald Trump cared so much about protecting his own life, but didn't care one lick about the people on the other plane. Because he thought the threat was real, that plane might get blown up. And he didn't mind leaving those people on there, which is amazing. Elliot, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's quite the elaborate ruse that Trump pulled off here. So if you can recall, Trump used his new Air Force One, gifted to him, of course, by Qatar, to get to Turkey. But it was announced during the summit that Trump would use the former Air Force One to come back. The security of the new aircraft came into question, and the administration stated it needed to undergo more upgrades. In Ankara, Trump boarded the old Air Force One jumbo jet in view of television cameras. He was secretly shuttled minutes later to a smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A, via an airport catering truck typically used to load meals and other supplies pre-flight, according to the US official and corroborating material reviewed by the Post. That made Air Force One a decoy with media and some White House staff aboard, the official said. And luckily, we do in fact have some footage of Trump escaping the Air Force One jet and sneaking into a catering truck.
President Trump was seen boarding Air Force One at 8:24 p.m. local time on July 8th. But actually, according to the Post, and you can see here, Trump and several of his aides were secretly shuttled minutes later onto this airport catering truck, which was elevated and positioned at a door out of the view of the cameras. Now, the Post reports that the president was on that catering truck when it pulled away from Air Force One at 8:30 p.m., secretly bringing him to a smaller plane, an Air Force C-32A, making the Air Force One that everyone thought he was on a decoy that still had the reporters who thought the president had boarded that plane and who you see boarding right here on the right, and some White House staff aboard. The Washington Post reports, and I quote, "The maneuver meant that the president's actual location was concealed from the American public and many senior US officials for hours."
So the planes take off and they later land in the UK, and this initiates phase 2 of the ruse, getting Trump back onto Air Force One so that he can exit Air Force One.
If you watch this show for 5 minutes, you know how we feel about systems built to confuse people so someone else can profit. Medicare is the same kind of maze, whether you're on it now or helping a parent through it. And before the comments start, don't you guys want Medicare for all? Why promote a private company? Well, until we get the system we actually want, which is definitely Medicare for all, people still have to survive on the one we've got right now. And most people helping them get paid more to steer them wrong. Same rigged incentive we cover here every day. That's why we work with Chapter, independent Medicare advisors who are honest, not paid to push one plan over another. They're the only Medicare advisors that compare every plan nationwide completely free. Take Chip, a member of our audience. His old broker milked him for commissions. He called Chapter instead, found a better plan, and now saves over $100 a month. And if you're already on the best plan for you, Chapter will tell you straight, no upsell. Get help against the rigged system. Call Chapter for free under 20 minutes at 805-201-2275. That's 805-201-2275.
Now, it's still not clear, as the Post notes tonight, how the president was transported from that other secret plane back onto Air Force One after it landed. You see here, the reporters captured the president getting off the plane that they thought he had just flown on with them to the UK, and he's seen coming down the stairs just before 11 p.m. After greeting American service members on the tarmac, Trump got on the new Air Force One jet. That's the one that was given to the president by the Qatari government, and then he flew back to Washington. Now, the plane that he's getting on here is not to be confused with the old Air Force One decoy or the military plane that he flew on secretly. But it was when the president got back on this plane to fly home to the US that he was asked by reporters why they had been told to lower their window shades on that first flight, which is extremely unusual and not typically something that happens for the press that sits on the right side of the plane, which is where that airport catering truck was, now that you look back at that other video. But given what we know now, given the pictures that you can see now, it makes what the president told reporters in that gaggle afterward all the more noteworthy.
Yeah, and when the press asked Trump why the folks on Air Force One had to lower their window blinds, he said, because you were on a dangerous flight.
Do you know why they had us close our window blinds? That was not usual.
Well, yeah, because you're, probably on a dangerous flight because of the sleazebags that we have to deal with.
So you think that Iran was possibly thinking, trying?
Well, I mean, if they asked you to close your windows, probably they feel that way. They didn't ask me to close mine, but if they did, I would have done it.
Were you aware of any credible threat by Iran against Air Force
Well, I have
One?
a threat all the time. I'm number one on their list before you. But if I go, you go, right?
But was there a
So
specific threat today?
perhaps someday you want to change professions.
Okay, so I guess in Trump's mind, that's just the price you're willing to pay if you decide to be a journalist reporting on the president. Among those on the smaller jet was Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who boarded the C-32A using external stairs in a manner that made him look like the senior-most official on the flight, the Post reported Monday. But here's the thing, while the initial Washington Post report stated Trump left White House staff and the press pool to be decoys, an update later revealed that he actually did take some people with him on his secret flight, a select few of his most loyal aides that you've probably not heard of. Other passengers on the truck included Dan Scavino, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, Natalie Harp, the president's executive assistant, and Walt Nato, the director of Oval Office operations, according to a US official familiar with the operation and corroborating material reviewed by the Washington Post. A few lower profile aides were also present, but the group did not include Secretary of State Marco Rubio or other officials at the highest level of government, according to the official and the material. But of course, Trump was the one at greater risk, and so he just, left his cabinet and maybe some US journalists to fend for themselves after he had just resumed hostilities with Iran. So, Cenk, I am reminded of the scene from the movie Titanic when the ship is going down and the captain sneaks onto a catering truck. So, what are your thoughts?
I was wondering where you were going with that.
You know that.
So I couldn't understand, was Rubio on the decoy plane or the safe plane? It sounded like maybe he was on the decoy plane.
Yeah, he's on decoy, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I have a theory on that I'll come back to. So first off, Trump said there, well, if I go, you go. It turns out that wasn't true. He was on the other plane earlier. So the plane that was more likely to be bombed was the reporters. So if they had gone, he would have been fine. And that was the whole point. Like, cause remember, if he just switches planes, they still know which plane he's on, right? So he has to pretend he's on the decoy plane, which by definition endangers the people on the decoy plane. And they're like, and if you guys get killed, who cares? Because if you go, I don't go. And that's Donald Trump in a nutshell right there. I don't agree with Axelrod when he says the public has a right to know. We have a right to know maybe afterwards. But no, you don't have to publicize that, hey, the president is under threat and he's right there. No, you don't have to do that, right? On the other hand, when he says, but the people on the decoy plane have a right to know, oh yeah, that's definitely true. It's totally, I mean, if you're on the plane, imagine they put your kids on the decoy plane, they put you or your wife or your husband on the decoy plane. Nah, that's crazy, right? And it shows massive indifference to their lives. So now, the good news is we got this intelligence about how Iran is about to kill Trump from Israel. So that means it's fake. Israel was trying to get Trump anger. Oh, the Iranians are looking to kill you, and oh, it's super credible. Oh, they have a shoulder-fired RPG. They're any second you're gonna die. Remember, it said attack Iran, attack them more, attack, right? So that's why my theory on Rubio being on the decoy plane, he's like, oh, we got it from Israeli intelligence as a guy who's Israeli first, right? Marco Rubio has gotten millions upon millions of dollars from the Israeli lobby. He knows the intelligence is fake. So he's like, oh, the Israelis gave us intelligence. Now I'll go on the decoy plane, I'm good.
It's a good.
They're not gonna hit us.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's situations that maybe the public shouldn't know about when it comes to the security of the president. I totally respect that. At the same time, when stories like this come out, they're just so goofy that it reminds me of an episode of Veep, and it does make me question exactly what we're doing as a nation and a world, so.
Yeah, so I mean, it is funny because of all the, the trickery and all that. But again, I'm stuck on the guys on the decoy plane because they thought it was real. Like the Secret Service, the security for the government, they all thought it was totally real, which is kind of comical. I mean, Israeli intelligence is literally never correct. They'll always give you intelligence to make you attack their enemies. It's so, at this late date, I can't believe we take those liars seriously. But they did, and they thought, oh my God, the president's in mortal danger, we've got to move out and make sure that the other White House officials and the reporters are in mortal danger instead. Yep. And I can't get past how immoral that is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's funny to like laugh about, but also I cannot imagine being in that situation. It is potentially one of the most terrifying situations you can possibly imagine yourself in anyway. And the fact that they asked Trump about it and he was just like, oh yeah, well actually your lives were in danger. I mean, it's easy in hindsight to go like, oh, here's probably what was going on. But in the moment, I don't know what was going through their heads. And it's an act of cowardice at the end of the day.
Oh, you know what, one last quick thing, because I thought like, so I run the company here, right? I founded it and we've been doing this for a long time. And so we got a lot of folks who work here. Imagine if I thought, hey, somebody might be looking to harm me and I've got real intelligence and we switch cars, right? I pretend to be in one car and I go, and then the car, the decoy car, I'm like, Elliot, you're going in the decoy car and Craig and Bart, you're, okay, yeah, like, yeah. And you know what, and you find out later, right? No, I don't tell you at the time, but you find out later that you thought that I believed that you guys might die, and I put you in the car anyway.
Yeah,
like you got to be like, what in the God's green are you?
Thanks,
because
man.
There's people who work at the White House who got put on the decoy plane, right? What do they think afterwards? Oh, Trump was willing to let me die. Isn't that crazy? I mean, how furious would you be?
Yeah, you have to close. Why are we closing our blinds in the middle of a flight? Oh well, because your life is in danger. Okay, cool. Thank you, Mr. President. It's good stuff.
Well, at least the president's on the plane, so no, he's not. No, we got him to safety. It's only your life that's on the line. It's disgusting. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.